Egypt to go. Thank you for thinking of that. Yeah. A country I visited twice and very dear to my heart. Sheikh is an academic and a scholar of Islam and world religions with a vast experience in Catholic and history. And I will first read a brief land acknowledgement. We gather today on the territories of indigenous peoples who have been stewards of the land for thousands of years. This is Treaty 6 territory, a homeland, meeting ground, and traveling route for many nations. We acknowledge with respect their languages, history, spirituality, and culture, and are grateful to live, learn, and worship in this place. We also grieve the historical and ongoing injustices that have resulted from settler colonialism on this land, broken treaty promises, forced displacements and land thefts, residential schools, bans on traditional language and cultural practices, and ongoing systemic racism. We also grieve our failure to live up to the best of our own traditions and the subsequent broken relationships with others, the land, and our Creator. We commit ourselves to learn what it means to be treaty people and to engage in the work of healing, reconciliation, and justice seeking, to receive with respect the gifts of Indigenous peoples for our deeper understanding of the beauty of this land and how it feeds our spirits, and to offer ourselves to build relationships of mutuality and respect, and to join in care for creation. So welcome, everyone. That's Sheikh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Now, when I say life is a continuum and death is not the end, that might not come as news to a lot of people, but it might come as something weird to say. Now, we are meeting here as a group of the Interfaith Center, which I have joined since the early 80s. And I consider them to be my extended family. But to have a statement like this, I would like to start with a personal experience to know basically where my thoughts are coming from. When I was about 6 years old, we were living in a house that has about 13 people in it. Kids, adults, seniors. And all of a sudden, my mother looked at me and told everybody, this kid looks at me like the black cougar. For a 6-year-old child, that was kind of a weird statement. So at this point, nobody responded, but there is a file that opened in my mind about what does that mean. So shortly after, I learned that she has been to a movie. I think the movie was called Black Panther or the Black Cougar. And there was a black cougar that's terrorizing the neighborhood. But why would my mother look at me and make that statement? So all what I did, I opened the file in my mind and kept it open for the longest time ever. Today, when somebody asks me how old I am, I say I'm 77. Neta might disagree because I only closed 76. But what I am going to tell you is actually took place before the birth date. What I learned later on, that as I was watching what's going on, my mother had another pregnancy. And all what I... Hello there, Kahindi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And we were living in a two-story villa kind of thing. And as I saw my father carrying her like, wrapped in a blanket, there was a leg of um, a child dangling in between her legs. And I still didn't know what's going on, but they took her to the hospital. She came back a few days later, and she reported that the child came out alive, and he died a few minutes later, but she named him Rahel. And I'm saying that because of the few friends that joined us that can speak Arabic. And Rahel is basically a name that means a goner. I agree. This is Kareem, my son, just joined us.
Hi, welcome.
So, welcome. Good to see you. Thanks.
And from in between these two incidents, I kept thinking, why did I survive multiple abortion attempts throughout my whole pregnancy, where my younger brother, Rahel, succumbed to death a few minutes after being born, who basically gave me the strength to fight before I was even able to take my first breath. And who have decided that Rahel would be short-lived. From there on, I have been on the search of what life is all about and where are we going from here. And when it comes to where did we come from, I thought that we came from a 0 point. So I kept the file open in my mind and went on with my life. At that time, Egypt was struggling with the aftermath of war after war after war after war. There was the 48 wars that when Israel was established. There was the 56 war about the Suez Canal with Israel, France, and England. And then there was the 67 war, the 6-day war known. And I was just wondering, when people are fighting to survive, why are people fighting to kill each other? What is the point here? So as I went to the university, I figured I would explore a bit. So in 1969, I went to Europe. My plan was to go to Germany. I had a green card to work for the summer and the whole thing. But politically, I could not get into Germany. So I was stuck for the whole summer in Austria, an accidental tourist kind of thing. But I had a great experience with people. The objectives of the trip was not achieved, but all my memory about Austria and the people I met were fantastic. I went back to Egypt, and figured I forget about traveling because you cannot plan for a good trip. But then again, to make a long story short, I ended up the next summer in Finland, northern Finland, spent the whole summer there. A fantastic trip. Again, people was my experience. And again, it was an accidental trip. I didn't really plan to go to Finland. It just so happened. And that's another story. But from these two trips, in Austria, I realized that all what I am told about in Egypt are lies, especially when it comes to the particulars of the wars. But it was religious. And then in Finland, I had a fantastic time and met two Canadian ladies, older ones, based on which this meeting, I decided maybe I would immigrate to Canada and live a different kind of life. Went back to Egypt, thought I actually applied for the Canadian immigration. I got my landed immigrant and they said this expires in 6 months. I figured maybe I should finish my degree so when I go abroad, I have something to show. So the landed immigrant expired. I graduated. Now I'm faced with the conscription issue where I have to fight again. Fight whom? Fight the Jews. And my position was very strong that there's no way I can fight under a losing leadership. The leadership that has been there was defeated on and off. And now I cannot go fight under this leadership. So it was not a desertion issue. It was not a conscientious thinking issue. It was that I still don't trust the people I grew within. And then again, I'm reminding you that the first fight was for life against the one person that is supposed to protect me. So I fought in Egypt for about 6 years and fought in a sense that I wanted to leave, but there is the conscription issue, had to make a living, have to do this and that. And finally, after the 73 war, I worked my way out to leave Egypt and I left in 78. So leaving Egypt 78 was basically to leave my life behind and start a new one. It wasn't really about Canada. It was about leaving Egypt. So I came to Canada and I have a degree, I have a life, I have experience, I have the whole thing. When I first met the unemployment council to advise me on having a job, she was a woman in early 50s, and she said, I just have the job for you. I was experienced in export and import in vegetables and fruits. And she had a job for somebody who is expert in exporting and importing. I looked at the paperwork, I realized that all what it is was basically a Lebanese guy who wants to bring his brother to Canada. So who has tailored a job to bring his brother, and for his bad luck, I showed up. So I looked at the paper and I told the counselor, I don't think this is for me. So she looked at me and she said, so what do you want to do? So that when I evaluate my degrees, I want to uh, learn better English so I can communicate in this society, this and that. So she looks at me and she said, you speak English better than most. Go fend for yourself. Said fine. Stepped out of her office, looked at the board where help wanted is, looked at the board, picked the phone number, called the guy, and he said that I need a maintenance man, a handyman to do some maintenance in a hotel. So I told him I'll see you in half an hour. Went in there. When I went, I still had my tie and suit and briefcase, and I asked where is such and such to sit down in the basement. I went to him. He thought I was a salesman. So he looked at me and said, what? I said, well, I just called you. So he smirked, smiled. He said, I need a handyman. I said, well, if that's what the case is, took off my jacket, my tie, put my briefcase aside. So now I'm standing in a shirt and pants and said, so what do you need? So he took me around, walked away from the hotel with a bunch of keys to the whole hotel, and started a job as a handyman in a hotel. And that experience was very, very fulfilling because that's really what introduced me to the Canadian society from the kitchen door, from the back door. I got to know a lot of people, but one of the most important things that all the people there knew about me, that I'm not your traditional maintenance man. So even the manager gave me the keys to the pool so I can use it at any time. And for 3-4 months, I was just having the life of my time. But I got to know a lot about the Canadian society. And then after that, I worked as a delivery driver for a flower company. So I got to know the city I'm living in. And then after that, I went to for the city to drive a bus. I got my license, but I got in conflict with a German guy. It was definitely a discrimination issue. I left the job. I was fired, basically. Reapplied again in 6 months just to prove my point. And when they accepted me, I resigned to do it in my own terms and went to work into the refinery business, in the refinery role. At that time, I was asked if I want to bring my family in, I had to have a good paying job for at least 6 months. So within these 6 months, I worked in Stelco, steel company. Applied for my parents, my younger brother, and brought them in. Worked in the refinery job, a very good paying job, and life went on. And you probably wonder, what does that all have to do with the topic that I'm talking about? Throughout the whole time, I was thinking, who helped me fight my first fight? And I thought that at this point I needed a woman partner. I had a small ad in the local paper, one-liner, says, I need a smart woman. Everything else is negotiable. I got 8 responses. I met 5 women. Sorry, I called 5 women. I met 3. The last one, when I saw her, she was the one that really handled my brother's file at the university. And when she introduced herself with her maiden name, I realized that her father had been working with him for a number of years. So now we know about each other to keep going. So we started to date. And then I decided to immigrate to the United States. Got my paperwork done. I had an older brother who's living in New York and some friends in San Francisco or in California. I applied, went to initiate my immigration residence in San Francisco. Dorta followed me there. I was running a coffee shop for 6 months until my friend comes back. So she came in on a weekend, asked if we would get married. On Monday, we went to the City Hall, San Francisco. We got married. My plans all changed. I came back to Edmonton, and we started a life. Hi there. That was in 1990. In 1992, my mother passed away. She was here. She did go to the States. 3 months into immigrating to the States, she passed away. And that really made me reflect on my whole relationship with my mother from day one until she passed away. So we buried her in New York or New Jersey, and I went to do a reception in Egypt. And for the first time ever, I went to our cemeteries there where my sister was buried. And for 10 days straight, 3 hours every day, I read the Quran from start to finish with a relative of mine. That resonated with me that at age 42, for the first time ever, I read the Quran. I have been a Muslim throughout my whole time, but never really got into it. From there on, I started to have another life, but my first son was born that year, Almar. I started to plan to live in Egypt for a while, so if we have a family, they can dig into our previous life. We had Kareem in 94, and my father moved back to live with me in Egypt. And throughout the few years coming, I went to the Arabian Peninsula to do my religious connections. I went twice. So probably in that time frame, I probably read the Quran about 100 times. Then Egypt didn't work for me. So in 96, I decided to come back to Edmonton, start a new life. When I came back, the avenue of making a living opened up as an interpreter for the English Arabic communication. So I have a contract actually up till now with the federal government for the refugee board. I do interpretation in court. So I am exposed to all kinds of human problems that happens. Luckily, I'm not a decision maker. I am just an observer. So I got to be a chaplain at the University of Alberta on volunteer basis. I got to be a chaplain in the HS system on volunteer basis. But that was another learning curve completely in two aspects. Digging into two languages as an adult, not to communicate with people, but to understand what the language says, was very eye-opening. I'll give you an example. We always translated the word deen in Arabic into religion in English. But as I dug into both worlds, found that religion comes from legion, religion. So it is basically congregating around an ideology, where the word deen in Arabic is basically accountability. You are held accountable to your creator, and you are going to answer for everything you were given throughout your life. And from there on, my experience as a chaplain at the University of Alberta was very informing, sitting with 15 different chaplains from different faith-based ideologies. It was very informative. Yes, if somebody comes for consultation, I can do my best, to the point that I got to know what the Masons are. I was invited at the Masons Lodge to tell them about Islam. I invited the Mason head to come to the interface to tell people about what Masons are all about. So, an amazing learning curve, starting from the turn of the century. And then you keep going, meeting people, collecting information, and bingo, I had a near-death experience in 2020. And that's when, just saying hello to my friend Hazim here. He joined from Calgary, from Cairo. So the near-death experience, which I think most of you know about it because I talked about it, was an eye-opener. What does that mean to peek into the world beyond? And in my case, I managed to communicate and talk to my father, a very intellectual conversation in which I asked him to save my brain from that fall. Because without my brain, I cannot function. And if you see the video, you can see how that turned out to be very true communication, in which I had all my injuries on my right side, and my brain was saved, my spine was saved, my head was saved. You can't even tell. And then I started to dig deeper into this issue more and more, and I found there are two things here. There are the near-death experience, and there are the out-of-body experience. Mine was a near-death experience. And I think my friend Ken here had a near-death experience or out-of-the-body experience that he can tell about. And just about everyone that attended the session, just about everybody I talked to has something that is ununderstandable and cannot talk to people about it because people are not on the same level of knowledge. But again, to make a long story short, there is the 5 months that I spent in the hospital system where my body was dilapidated and my mind was so sharp that made me think. To understand where we are, I could come up with an analogy that the world we live in is actually two worlds. The physical one that we are all operate in within our own senses. And then there is the virtual one that's behind, that we are only told about through the scriptures. You cannot conceive that in your own. The scriptures tells you things that's very hard to understand, but you cannot do anything with it except try to understand it. I'll give you an example. In all the scriptures, there is the saying that heavens and earth were created in 6 days.
Mhm.
And people read this over and over and over again and pushes aside. When I tried to handle this, tried to reason, when I am told a one sentence in that sense, how can I understand it? How I can relate to this world where I lived so far, so many days? And then you work it out, you try to understand it. For me, the day that we know is the time it takes for the earth to go around it once. So when we talk about a universal day, it's the time it takes for the universe to turn around at once. Hence, when I'm told that this whole thing was created in 6 days, 6 universal days, I rest in peace. It's not my business, but now I understand what I'm told. And since my father passed away in 2012, I have adapted my prayer sense or system. Now I read the Quran over and over and over again from start to finish. That is the system of my prayers. I don't go by 5 times a day. I don't go by morning and evening. I don't go by this and that. Ahlan Nasr, come and sit here. This is Nasser Halal, a friend of mine. Hello, I've known him since way back then. Welcome, Nasser.
Thank you.
So just try to plug in and see what you get.
Sorry for being late.
No problem. So, anyways, since I changed my prayer system, now I have really plugged myself into things that can blow everyone's mind, but you have to accept it and try to understand it. For example, and again, because there are some people that can understand what I'm saying in Arabic, إنما الحياة الدنيا لعب ولهو والدار الآخرة هي الحيوان. This life that we're living is nothing but a game of distraction. The real life is the hereafter. I can see people from different faces shake their hands in approval that that does make sense. And if that makes sense, I listen to the news and I listen to the social media and shake my head that that's all a movie. No matter how it looks real, that it is passing. The fact that we have to sleep every night and wake up in the morning is a phenomenon. Why do we have to sleep? Why do we have to put both our body and mind to rest, to regenerate and go again? Well, I realized that actually to understand this, I have to think that every and each one of us actually possesses two entities. The physical one that we are all very aware of, and the spiritual one that we are only told about. And again, if I have to source the Quran in here, we are told in the Quran that when Adam was created, Allah has blew into him from his soul. Hence, Adam came from a mud statue into a living human being. And then from Adam comes Eve. From Adam and Eve comes generation after generation after generation. So the soul of God, of Allah, has been passing on from now. So if I go back to the original story, that's what kept me fighting for life 77 years ago. Before I was born. That's what kept me fighting, that Allah has his soul in me. And I wasn't predestined to die like my younger brother. So what made me survive? What made him die? The only reason I can get is that I have to keep fighting throughout my whole life till my time is up. So why did my younger brother die? Because as a result of this, my mother repented from trying to abort any future pregnancies. And as a result of that, I have a 14-year-old younger brother than I. Like the time difference between him and I is 14 years. And when my mother heard the news about pregnancy, he was welcomed, he was pampered, he was this and the whole kid and caboodle. And he went all the way till he got his PhD from the University of Alberta. And then he didn't like it here because it is too cold. So now he lives in California. But guess what? I told you. Because of this brother, I met my wife first time. So everything seemed to be planned. And there is nothing that you can do to change your destiny. Life goes on no matter what. And you go through it. The only thing that gives you peace of mind is to accept your experience. People are bored. They are enticed to go for wealth, for power. Those who go for wealth, after getting wealth, they go for power. And those who go for power, after getting it, they go for wealth. And you can see how the world is going now between the fights between wealth and power. But your main gain in life is to be able to have peace of mind that comes from within, that comes from your relationship with your creator. And maybe I should stop here to allow any thoughts to come through.
Well, absolutely, we can open it up.
Wow. No reflections? So
We talked about this before, Sheikh, to be really personal. Why did your mother, what was happening in your mother's life that she did not want any more children? Because I have such sympathy for that position.
yeah, and I do too. I
Good.
never, by the way, I never have any animosity between myself and my mother.
Mhm.
I understood she had already 2 children, and her life with my father was not going well. They are both 2 very strong characters
Mhm.
in 2 extreme ends
Mhm.
of what life is all about. So for her, she had enough with 2 kids. And for him, the reason that she went for that movie is every time that she asks for divorce, in Egypt, they don't go to court. In Egypt, they go to an imam to do that.
Mhm.
So he would take her out for a dinner and a movie, and then turn around, bring her home. And she would still have that on her mind that she cannot keep going that way.
Mhm.
I came, Gunnar came and gone, Amr came, and I was the one that actually brought them all here to change that life dynamics. And guess what? After living here for a number of years, she still insisted that she cannot live with him. So she acquired an apartment downtown where he was living with and Riverbend in a townhouse. He could visit, but her mind cannot get wrapped around living with him as a life partner.
Fair enough. Thank
I think she left Canada and went to the States to live there.
And she died 3 months after immigrating to the States
you.
because she did not accept her destiny.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. I remember your father, may he rest in peace. Of course, you brought him to many, many events.
Yep.
Yeah. Was it an arranged marriage in those days?
No. It was a different kind of marriage. My father was very much into religion, and he was in the university. He was studying veterinarian to be a veterinarian. And one time he was in seclusion in one of the mosques where my mother's father walked in, and their thoughts clicked, became friends. So he was a household guest. My father was a household guest at their end. Her mother died out as a result of an abortion, a successful abortion attempt, but she died shortly after. So now she is 15 years old and she is running the household. So within the tradition, he is not acceptable to come and go as priest unless he has a status. So that's how the marriage was done.
Well, they did, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah, it's just unbelievably strong characters on their convictions.
Yeah.
So there is no really winning and losing.
Marriage of convenience, right?
Not convenience, of faith,
For necessity.
necessity. Yeah, it has to be. Otherwise, life doesn't go on. But if people can allow me to bring another thing that is very pivotal in my thinking. One time I was having a meeting with the chaplains at St. John's, the Catholic building in the prison. St. Joseph, yeah. And then some other chaplains walked in from the Catholic faith and it handed us invitations to the movie The Passion of Christ. And this movie was being played for the first time. Of course, you realize it was very controversial when it first came in. So the movie was being played at the Alliance Church in Sherwood Park. I went with some friends, and they opened it up with a prayer, chaplain prayer. Showed the movie for however long it is. And people start to crying, start to react to the movie. It is a gory movie. I don't know how many people saw it. And I had some Muslim friends with me. So after the movie, we decided to go for dinner. So they asked me, what do you think? I said, actually, this movie have resolved an issue in my mind that has been for the longest time. In the Quran, you read, and it's very clear statement about Christ has not been killed, has not been crucified, but it was made to appear to them that way. And Allah has raised Christ up to him. So I get the three things. I find that in the movie, there was the crucifixion, there was the killing, and they did not really emphasize the rising part in the movie. I don't know if you saw it. Mm-hmm. And I find that's a grave mistake, because when 600 years later, a scripture comes to say, no, what you saw was not true. But I took my prophet, the messenger, up to me. I would not allow people to degrade him that much. What proved that to me is we just saw 2 hours of all the experience. People reacted to it, to what they saw. But the production, Mel Gibson, Bill Caviezel, the actor, all the crew, are actually celebrating the success of the movie. Mm-hmm. So that was imagery. And if people can do that in the year 2000, mm-hmm. definitely the creator can do that at inception. And now we can see in this little gadget, you can see a lot of things. Believing it or not is up to you. Mm-hmm. And I should say that my relationship with Ken, it started at the rec center based on him having really the cross on his back across the board and the whole thing. And I just wanted to connect with him that is not the part that people should consider. But people should consider the rising part, that Allah has taken Christ up to him to save him from people, and the message was complete. The message was delivered. And the way he was born and the way he was taken is a miraculous way. But so what? Christ has done so many miracles on earth that people could not fathom how he can make the dead alive again, how he can cure the lepers, how he can do this and that. All these are miraculous things. So why don't you believe that the Creator who sent him here in that fashion of a virgin birth and the whole story, why are you capitalizing on the crucifixion? So now I have a divide that anybody that carries a cross say, well, you go your way, I go mine. Because I do revere Christ. I do understand how he changed the world at his time. I do understand how the Romans has taken up Judaism as Christ has established it, and it turned into Catholicism. So we are living in a really a fantasy world that the only way I can relate to this world by the notion, oh, I'm leaving soon. I have been here for 76 or 77 years. I have done well just by going through my experiences. And the only thing I can accept all this with a smile is I'm leaving soon. So hope to see you all there.
There.
Go ahead.
Hindi. Please.
Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. The aspect I want to respond to is the comparison of the life that we live in this present realm and existence, in comparison with the beyond that faith systems are educating us about and are trying to explain to us. And what I have to say is that I think the present life has, meaning, and is meaningful to the extent that we can define purpose. We can define our own purpose, find our own purpose within it. I do not think it is meaningless, because one of the spiritualities that I'm afraid of is the spirituality that discountenance the present life. I think it has value. We can make a difference in the world. We can leave footprints on the sands of time, that will bless other people coming behind us. So I just like to say that even though we don't have all the facts about the world to come, people's personal experiences keep them going. And beyond that, I think we should strive, to make meaning of this, of the present life, and live the truth that we know. Okay, I'm saying this because there is enough to frustrate us in the world today. Look at how polarized the world is today. But I think that, none of us can be comfortable, especially the more we are aware of accountability, the way you explain, the word, is it dinner or something like that? We are accountable. We can't afford to be indifferent. So that wherever we are, we should strive, to make the difference in whatever way, time and opportunities afford us, to lessen the pain of humanity, to lessen the tension, to bring about the best, out of the human heart, out of the human mind. We can't change the whole world, but wherever we are, we can give people hope. And I think that is worth, pursuing. That was the thought that was going on in my mind as we are presenting. Thank you. Thank you.
You know, I have been thinking of every and each one of us is a puzzle piece that fits in this world in only one particular way. And as we come into inception, and I'm talking about when the sperm meets the egg. If the sperm is alive, a new human is created. If the sperm is dead, there is no go. Same as the egg. But from this union starts a life that is basically blank, has no record in it. And as we go through life, both the physical entity, spiritual entity are being nourished. The physical entity is being nourished with the food, the air, breeze, the water, the everything. Where the spiritual entity is being nourished by knowledge. You learn things, and you learn things throughout your whole life. At the point of death, this is a point of separation, where the physical part goes into recycling and the spiritual part goes into the beyond. But we are told that there is the life that we live in right now. This is only one stage. And then there is the life beyond the where you just basically stop communicating. So in Arabic, it's called beyond the barzakh, the barrier. In English, in Christianity, it's called limbo. And then whatever you achieve throughout that life is based on your knowledge level, where you're at, or whatever. But in the monotheistic religions, we think of resurrection. In the Far Eastern religions, they bring the issue of reincarnation, which you can conceive both happening. That reincarnation can happen over and over and over again, where you come back to life and add to your knowledge base all the way until you achieve the nirvana, which you don't need to be here anymore. And we move on. In the monotheistic aspect, it's talking about resurrection, and resurrection is not really about the bodies coming back from recycling. Resurrection is about the spiritual entity rematerializing into a physical entity. And that's where you get your account of what you have achieved throughout your existence in this world. And that's where the reward and punishment lies. So again, life is a continuum, doesn't stop anywhere. It is a cycle that is going on and on and on and on, where death as we know it is not the end of anything. It's just moving from one cycle to another, to another, to another. And it's all documented. We were told about that way back then. We didn't understand it. Now we understand. everything is documented. And everything is recorded to the point that we're going to face it, good or bad. And I think we should
Thank
come to a
anyone
close
else?
this morning.
Anyone else, please?
Any reflections? This is one of the see who's behind you. Hello there. Hello. How are you doing?
I have a very quick question.
Please,
I'm sorry, we should probably see you.
please have a seat.
Scott,
Have a
please.
seat up front. Sorry.
Please.
I don't know very much about your faith. I have a good friend. His daughter married a sheikh in Egypt, but I have no idea what a sheikh is and what the difference is between a sheikh and an imam. I have no
Okay.
idea, so maybe
Yeah.
you could tell me.
Yeah, I got your. Okay, the word sheikh is basically referred to male entities that are old enough, like the reference to وَأَبُونَا شَيْخٌ كَبِيرٌ, and our father, the girls that met Moses at the watering hole referred to their father as Shaykhun Kabir, an old sheikh. So sheikh is basically a male goes into the phase of no production, no sexual production anymore, right? We get to understand it here as an elder, basically. And the knowledge of that elder should be based on experience, life, and his own research or studies or whatever. Where an imam in Arabic, imam is the person who stands in front. So he is a physical leader of whatever activity is being done, whether that's a prayer, whether is it a war, a battle, or whatever. An imam has to have the vigorous attitude to lead to something. So basically, that's the difference. So very simply, if you walk into a mosque, the guy who is leading the prayers up there is an imam. Where the guy who is sitting on a chair in the back and you go for consultation, this is a sheikh. Okay. People take up the roles as they see fit. And people don't up the roles as they see fit.
So can a young man be a sheikh?
A young man can take that role.
See.
I would say it shouldn't, because you have to have developed the experience, not just the knowledge you learn somewhere. And then imam has to have the vigorous role of leading in basically a setting where it could be hostile or whatever, but he has to have that. Okay.
One further question. You spoke about this life being a dream.
Yeah.
Speaking.
Yeah.
This is a movie that we're in the middle of, and we have no idea how it's going to end or why it should end. What's the role of compassion and mercy and standing up for the oppressed if it's a dream and it doesn't make a difference?
I'm saying it doesn't make any difference at the end, because whether you win or lose, it's going down in history as a record. You did. It is really what the intentions are. Like right now, the whole world is consumed with the Epstein issue. And
Some of us are not. Sorry to contradict.
no, it's not contradiction. Just
Some of us are not.
well, I'm not either, but
Uh-huh.
every time you open the social media or whatever,
So don't go.
yes, the thing is, for me, it is irrelevant. Yes, a lot of people are hurt, and if you are in a position to help, you should step in. But if you see how limited help can happen, you'll see that it's just the logics of who interfered to do what. I mean, there's a lot of people that are in jail now, incarcerated for no justifiable reason. What can you do? I know about a lot of them in Egypt, and Hassan can attest to that. Scientists, researchers, people just speak their mind, people speak the truth. And I here cannot do anything except to follow the stories.
The idea of suffering,
Yeah.
and one should suffer because it doesn't matter, because everything will be in the new life, everything will be better, is very hard to accept for me, because I think it's probably my duty as a human being to help people not to suffer and to make life better for people.
As much
And
as
yet-
you can.
And yet, the scriptures that you speak of, all the scriptures speak of, this is but an illusion, not to worry, except we're in it. And I find it very hard to justify looking away simply because I've been told I have no control over what's going to happen, that this is all preordained. This is like my life. Maybe it's preordained that I should interfere. But again, there's this conflict between the philosophy which says this is temporary, the real life is coming, and it may come again, it may come again, we don't know, but this is temporary. But at the same time, is there any reason why I shouldn't interfere in a situation where someone's being caused pain in what I've been told is only a temporary life?
The thing is, it's all what's in your mind. If you can do something about it, you should. There's no way you should walk away from something that you can correct.
Do you believe that suffering has purpose?
It does exist, but speak up so
Do you believe that suffering has purpose?
of course. No. Of course. Okay, so you got two answers. This is the Jewish answer, and this is the Muslim answer.
Can I ask a question? That
Go ahead.
just thinking about, of course, you always mention how there's two worlds: the spiritual world and the physical world, and they're separate, but obviously very, very linked. Of course, we all have spiritual experiences alongside our physical experiences. And I was just thinking, especially because you bring up world events, the Epstein angle, whatever else is going on. There's plenty of villains in the world, and of course we know that like in the Christian culture, they have the idea of demons and devils, and same with in Islam we have shaitan, we have demons as well, we have jinn, right? I was wondering, in Islam, is there a correlation to what the Christians conceive of as the Antichrist? Like when we see a figure like, for example, Epstein, or even like Peter Thiel or Donald Trump, or some people would say Barack Obama, and they point to him as an Antichrist. I'm wondering if there's a similar concept in Islam, and if you think that is at all applicable, that the spiritual world and the physical world have that connection of having jinn, shaitan, and an Antichrist figure.
Yeah, I would say there is a fundamental difference between how the Christians perceive that issue and how the Muslims perceive that issue. And again, I'll go to the Quran. Quran states very clearly that there is the humankind, and there is the jinn kind. And the jinn kind can see the humankind and manipulate their thoughts, not their attitude. They can manipulate their thoughts so they change their attitude. But that's the issue. Where in Christianity, like I cannot claim enough knowledge, but from there on, I can just not to accept the Antichrist issue, but I accept that in the world beyond, there is the jinn kind who are manipulating all our thoughts. That's their mission in life. And then there is the realm of the angels that operate to support us in so many ways. And there is the part that is classified as unknown because our knowledge is very limited to what we are allowed so far. But you can see that our knowledge has been increasing from day one all the way up to now. That now we know a lot, that we can reflect on what we are told. But there is more to know. And the longer the world is going to be, the more knowledge that's going to come across. And what do you do when you know something that you haven't known before? When there is something that now you know, and you have been looking for that knowledge for the longest time. Once you know, you just relax. Once you know the issue, you relax. You say, oh, that's what it is. So when it comes to Antichrist, I cannot claim the whole concept behind it. But when it comes to the jinn kind that manipulates our behavior and our thoughts, yes, I'm told about it. And I believe personally that there's a lot of jinn kind that are interfering with my life right now. But that's my own fight.
Karim, is that good for you?
Yeah. So question with no certain answer, but I just wanted your perspective.
Laura, I saw something in the chat. Please.
Certainly.
I can't read it from here. It's
Thanks, everyone. I need to move into the next
Oh,
assignment of the day.
somebody saying goodbye. Can you hear that?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I'll be teaching.
Probably, yeah.
So the jinn aren't just mischievous. Sometimes they're, my understanding, they like to mess people around, but they can also be truly destructive as well.
This is their life purpose is to interfere with human achievement, to be on the right side.
On the right side.
No, when you are trying to be on the right side of things, the jinn has to interfere to put you on the wrong side of things.
To what end? Are they from Shaitan?
This is the parallel opposite throughout existence. And jinn kind are here before us, or we're here before us. And again, you don't know how far that's going to go.
Yeah.
But you just have, like, when Sabah asked me for a ride and when she was in the car, she started Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. When I told her that I am dealing with a lot of jinns right now, the antidote of this is A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. You have to seek help from Allah, from the capabilities of Satan's to spoil your endeavor, whatever it is. And then there's a mention to the Satans of jinn and the Satans of ins. The Satans of people, of the humankind.
Mhm.
So Satan is a description of a behavior.
Okay.
It is not a label of a entity.
More of a verb.
Hmm?
More of a verb than an
No, Satan, no.
action.
They're it's a name, it's a pronoun that is
Mhm.
given to people that actually influence
Okay.
your thoughts or do something that cause you to behave badly.
Thank you.
I want to insert something. Yeah, it's been prescribed to us. We must always seek refugee from Allah, like A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitan regime,
Mhm.
and the evil shaitan
Mhm.
and devil jinns can be anywhere that we cannot
Sure.
see. Our eyes cannot see that.
Sure.
But at the same time, I have had few experiences where my family have told us. I was a young girl when I came here to Canada, so I spent like 10 years in Pakistan. But that's where I was born. And just like human beings, there are good and bad and evil, among us. That, satanic stuff is being done. Not all of us are that way, but we are in categories. Same with jinns. They are evil, bad, could be bad and evil, and also good that would benefit you. And there are a couple of families, not 200 families that we came across, but we did came across a couple of families in Pakistan where they had experienced jinns in their house, and they were very good to them.
Okay.
They had been excellent to them.
Yes, and there is a chapter in the Quran about jinn hearing the Quran being read
Yeah.
and going back to their folks and say, we have heard something that's out of this world. And it just goes on and on. So really, I mean, for all those who are here, I would suggest try to read the Quran just as a recreational read.
Mhm.
Don't get involved with it. Just out of curiosity. I have 2 Qurans downloaded in my phone. One for prayers and one for English translations. And I do refer to them. It is a tough read. It's not an easy read. But you read a lot of books. Like, I mean, you walk into a bookstore and you see a lot of books. Wow, this is something that out of your curiosity is at least read it once.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sheikh. Just the way, like, if I don't read a certain books on self-help, how would I know, for example, if that's what my need is, or maybe Bible or any religious book. So it's for your own benefit. Then you can come to your own, like just like the way we had said, right, many times that traveling is great. Traveling, you learn something. And then when you come back to your hometown where you live, you appreciate whatever you were living.
That's a
at.
great example. Great analogy. Yeah.
What I like I do.
I'm just gonna leave.
Can you come for a minute in your chair and just tell you something?
Sure.
Just
about to go.
yeah. Yeah, you asked me about Imam and Sheikh, and you probably just wonder why my name is Sheikh. Because there's no child that could be born with the name Sheikh. Right? You have to put some experience, life experience into it. So when I say my name is Shaykh Sheikh, my last name is Sheikh because I came from the family that has a Sheikh as a last name. But when it comes to my name, there's a whole long story behind it. But when I first was born, my name was Zakaria. When I went to Europe, because of the changes in the language, when I heard Zacharias, Zachary, it was so confusing. And in Europe, it's different than here. In Europe, it's just you cross 100 miles and you're in a different country with different language, the whole thing. So it was shortened to Zach. Okay, so I went back home and I said, my name is Zach, and everybody agreed, right? It is a novelty. And then I came here, lived with the name Zach for the longest time until I got into the chaplaincy. And here there was an issue where all the chaplains are being communicated with on first name basis. But when students come to me, anybody from my culture would say Sheikh, because I am a religious advisor. So when my children asked me to fix the name issue in our family and the whole thing, I pulled the name Sheikh from last name, made it first name, and spelled it differently. So it became Shaykh Sheikh.
What happened to Zach?
It is in the middle name now.
Or Sheikh
Like
Zach?
my full name is Sheikh Dean Zach Sheikh.